Welcome to My Fitness Journey, a fitness podcast where we highlight everyday people and their fitness journeys. And by doing so, we hope that we could get you to rethink what it means to be fit and to understand that this journey is a lifestyle change and not a quick fix system. Let's do it. Welcome back, everyone. Hello. Welcome to episode 2 of My Fitness Journey. Today we have my man Mike Richie in the house. What's going on, Mike?
What's up, Tom, man? Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Bro, it's such a blessing to have you on today. We've been having this conversation for a very long time. The day is finally here, so I just want to officially welcome you as the official second guest of My Fitness Journey.
Come on.
I'm just gonna give a quick summary of who you are and why are you here. So for my audience, Mike is a health and wellness entrepreneur, fitness leader, athlete, and also a podcast host. And currently, Mike is a coach and general manager at Craig Fitness. Is that correct?
You got it, man. That's right.
Yes, sir. So just to get into it, we want to first get to know you and really where did that fitness journey begin? So who is Mike? Who are you? What do you do? Where are you from? And just a little bit about your background, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess in terms of who Mike is, where he's from, and some background history to that. Man, I'm born and raised in the Boston, Mass area. So I've been here my entire life. And I grew up an athlete. It was athletics from the get-go. I think 4 years old was like t-ball and you name it, soccer, whatever it was I could play with my parents allotting and allowing for. I was there. I was climbing trees, when I wasn't playing organized sports, and I was playing pickle in the front yard. But just developed a love for athletics as a young man, and just continued to pursue that over the duration of my high school, collegiate years as well. And man, just continued to fall in love with the sport, the game, coaching, whatever aspect that was that I was involved with. So, man, I think like in a nutshell, you could call me a fanatic, but I think what it comes down to is just a passion for competition and for excellence and for betterment.
Let's go. Love it. And what were your early, fitness / athletic experiences like early in the sense of like high school? Because I know that's really where the passion started to really grow stronger and stronger.
Yeah. Man, so most of my athletic career was decimated by injury. I think my first like pretty serious injury I think I sustained as a middle schooler, and then it was like sophomore year, junior year, same date, get this, 9/25/2003, 9/25/2004. I broke my arm and I broke my leg 2 years in a row, just back to back. Wow. Man, and it was like, I had this heart for athletics, and I felt as though it kept getting taken away from me, Mm-hmm. But that grew an inquired mind as to trying to understand maybe like what some of the idiosyncrasies were to why these injuries kept occurring and such. But man, I loved it. I just kept coming back for more, and people thought I was crazy. My parents, my grandparents thought that, I should have taken up piano instead of playing football, or lived in a bubble wrapper. But man, I couldn't get away from it, regardless of the detriment, the injury, or whatever else it was. Man, I loved it. I was a 3-sport athlete: football, track, baseball. And man, I kept coming back for more.
And what would you say some of the reasons why, for example, you experienced a lot of injuries, probably more so than the average athlete in high school. What were some of those reasons? Would you say, would you say you were even prone to injuries, or is this just the fact that you kind of just went at it hard every day? Like, what were you dealing with at the time?
Yeah, man. Well, so you spoke about the more injuries than the average individual. A buddy of mine in high school, we actually legit used to keep tally. I'm like, yo,
Really?
what number are you at? He's like, yo, I broke my collarbone. I'm like, I broke my leg, and like, hey, I got 12. Well, I got 13. But man, it was like I kept coming back because it made me feel alive. I loved the competition. I loved the journey. I loved the process. I loved the camaraderie, the community, like the familial aspect that you develop when you're going to war with a brother, with a teammate, whatever that looks like. So that was like that intrinsic piece that kept pulling me back for more. And then that was like the inquired piece that I wanted to learn. Like, am I injury prone? Do I have like underlying or pre-existing conditions that are causing these like more detrimental or serious injuries? And or is it just like, man, is it a freak accident? And I think I'm a smaller individual, a little bit undersized, especially for a collegiate football player.
Yeah.
And man, it was like, I just laid my body out on the line, probably more so than I should have. And, the durability probably wasn't there. And I played with a kind of all out warfare type mentality, if you will. And I think like end of the day, I probably could have been a little bit more conscientious and full of wisdom with that. But man, I had this almost like fearless mentality. What my life verse, Psalm 27:1, it says, with him on my side, I'm fearless, afraid of no one and nothing.
Let's go.
And I just, this was like, it was a script of my life too, not just a scripture that I identified with, but that was like the script that wrote my life. And I tried to live and walk in that manner as well. And this was even before I even recognized it for what it was. But I had that fearlessness that probably promoted a lot of those unnecessary or freak accident injuries as well.
And I remember when we first had a conversation about this and your injuries, I mentioned that in a way you were also a reckless kid. You were, your energy level was high and you almost like you were an adrenaline junkie in a way, but it seems like there was a shift as the time grew where, you started to learn the lessons. And of course, that led to the discovery of what is actually happening. Is it genetics? Is it, is it just a way of life? Is there a behavioral change? Is there something that I have to, be more vigilant about to prevent these injuries? And I believe this actually inspired your love for coaching, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for coaching and for the industry as a whole, really. It prompted that kind of desire to learn more about the human body. Yes. I wanted to understand the physiology of the human body. I wanted to understand the kinesthetics and such to it, the kinesiology aspect to what it was that I was experiencing. So it drove and prompted my career path. And I'm grateful for those injuries as much as in the midst of them, like, yes, they were challenging, they were painful, they set me back, but it was also a setup for my future. It was a setup for me to take the direction into where it was that I wanted to be and where I felt that God had called me to in the fitness or the health and wellness industry, this world here. So all those injuries compiled into this preemptive strike, if you will, of like, hey, I'm going to go full tilt, like no holds barred into this industry of health and wellness that I'm so passionate about because I wanted to learn more about the human body in general, the performance of the human body and its reactionary stations and such. So
that's so good, man. That is so good. That's why, that's what makes you a great coach and why, your athletes are lucky to have you because you've been there, you've experienced it. And that as a result, it's led you to helping them prevent some of those injuries that you experienced, taking a rehab approach, a very intentional approach to this journey, which is key because, if you're not able to, stay on the course, stay in the field, that defeats the whole purpose. So having someone like you who can really speak to that, it's amazing. And then as an athlete in college, you mentioned, your size generally, especially as a football player, you have the speed, you have the athleticism, but generally you're smaller than the average person. I can relate to you because I'm not any taller or bigger than you. Yeah. So how can you just give us an experience? Like, what was life in college as an athlete like for you, and what were some of the challenges that you dealt with there?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so realistically, I was undersized, as we just discussed. I was a walk-on again as well. So there's a degree to that where there was a piece to me where I felt like I had to prove something to someone. And then I had to work. And I had to be the first one in the weight room. I had to be the last one out. I had to be the first at practice. And I put in the extra time and the energy. And there were like certain experiences. And I was having this conversation last night with my cousin. But there are like defining moments in our lives, or even like words of affirmation that can either direct us or break us. And there were certain people, and I remember certain conversations where a simple 4 words have really, I think, over the course of my entire athletic career, we can talk like childhood through like post-collegiate experiences, but 4 words that stand out to me that I think directed my journey, and it was, I believe in you. It was, I believe in you. And I heard these as a young man. I was maybe a junior or sophomore in high school, and actually the gentleman who's the head coach at Ashland now he was a mentor to me. He was a good friend to me, and he was back visiting for one of the Thanksgiving games, or I forget what it was. And he pulled me aside and he's like, "Look, Mikey, I believe in you. Like you can play with these fellas. Like you have what it takes. So I believe in you." So that stir a chip on my shoulder. But I knew that I knew I had to take it to the next level. I knew I had to put in the effort. I had to put in the work. I had to spend my evenings, my summer nights, my free time becoming and developing into a better athlete, a better individual, a better football player, whatever it was for myself. But it was a lot of defying the doubt, if you will, or overcoming of adversity, or and I hate the stance that I took, because it was probably more prideful, but it was proving people wrong for my sake, And in retrospect, like I've grown and I've matured differently in the manner where I don't need to prove anybody wrong. I don't seek the approval of man. I seek the approval of God. So I don't need that in my life now. But at the time, that was a driving factor.
That's it.
But man, it was the relationships too. It was the people that would rely on you, the endeavors that you would build with one another, and recognize that it's a team sport and each individual needed to play their specific role, whatever that was. And I started to actually understand and then accept the role that was asked of me and that was needed of me in order for our team to be successful. And it looked way different than the blueprint that I had actually put on paper, or like the rules and regulations or the expectations that I had previously set for myself. It looked way different than that. And I had to come to terms and grips and accept that for myself before I could actually walk in it. But that was probably one of the most redeeming and freeing experiences as well.
That's good. And something that, as I was reflecting on your story, that came to mind was that shift in mindset, when you kind of went from, having the need to please people, right? To prove people wrong.
Right.
And honestly, as a coach, how that could also lead there's danger in that, because it leads to injuries, it leads to disappointment, depression, and it's like a chase, a never ending chase. Right. But when that shift happens and I could relate in so many ways too, because I've always been an underdog. I was never the smartest person, especially being in business now. I still, despite how much I've accomplished, I still feel like people still don't take me seriously. So, but I've kind of changed that mindset too, where for me now, I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Right. I'm doing it for a higher power, and my why has changed. And it's not so much about what the world thinks of me, but more so of how am I, how are my goals, my vision, right? This life that I have, how is it, how is it pleasing to God in a way, So that being said, for you, when you had that mindset shift, basically, how did that impact you as a leader, and how is it, impacting your decisions now as a coach?
Yeah. I mean, I think it impacted in the manner which it leads in everything I do. And I think I shared this with you before, and I'll share it here. But if you want to call it a mantra that I would lead myself by or live through was height doesn't measure heart.
Ooh, yes.
I know,
I love
right?
that.
Height doesn't measure heart, and I think even as I still mature now, it means something different now than it did then.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just being an undersized individual, like the only thing I could express more than my physical stature was the heart for whatever the matter at hand was. And I was reading a book recently, Win the Day by Mark Patterson. Excellent read. He's my favorite author. He's got so much great content out there. But he tells a story of this young man named Bo Eason who, at 9 years old, he ends up like sitting down with his father, and he puts together this like little stick figure imagery of himself playing football. He's got a helmet and a stick figure, and underneath it, mind you, this is a 9-year-old kid. He writes the best safety in the NFL. This kid's already casting vision for his life at 9 years old. I'm like, come on, somebody, let's go.
Right.
But like, what happens next is one of the most incredible storylines and experiences. And this father, he plays an intricate role in like directing the path of his son. I'm like, I want to be a father like this someday. This kid he's probably 5 foot freaking 0, 100 pounds soaking wet. And he's a freshman in high school, and he goes to his football tryouts. And at the football tryouts, coach is kind of like, yeah, hey dude, you're a little small, like might not be a great fit for the team. Kid goes home the next day or whatever at the end of that day. And dad asks him like, hey, how was practice? How were tryouts? And he goes, dad, coach said I was a little bit too small. Like they took our weight, they took our height, said I measured up small. Dad goes here, and dad has a point. He has an opportunity right here to like make or break his son. He goes, yeah, but did they rip open your chest and measure your heart? I'm like,
so good.
Oh my gosh,
so
bro,
good.
come on. But like, that's something that we have tangible control over.
Yes.
We have tangible control over the effort, the energy, the passion that we put forth in everything that we do, but we cannot control our external circumstances. I can't control my size. I can't control the physical stature in which I embody. So like, we can control how we respond to things. We can control our reaction. I believe the military principle, E plus R equals O. Your event plus your response equals your outcome. So let's call the event being an undersized athlete. How you respond with heart, with passion, with demeanor, with work ethic, with integrity, with discipline, whatever that might be, is going to equal your outcome, success, or whatever your desired outcome might be. Your response, not your event, not the identity that someone else tries to place on you, but the identity you claim for yourself. So that principle plus like that heart matter of measuring the heart, height, not measuring heart, has directed everything that I've done. Every endeavor, every journey, every step in my path. That has like been the underlying source behind my career path, behind my energy, my effort, and everything that I put my hands to, my business endeavors, my fitness journey, whatever it might be. Those two kind of pieces weigh together and direct my steps.
That's so good, man. That is so good. And then as an athlete, I know you coached a little bit of high school.
Yep.
Do you have any plans of going back to high school athletics or college possibly?
Gosh. I guess so. Plans? No, I don't necessarily have plans to. I hope to.
Okay.
I hope to, but it's. I don't have a blueprint for it or a timeline for it. I've stayed involved to a degree with the Ashland football program to whatever degree I can, but it's infrequent and it's volunteer, and in terms of bandwidth, I don't have the bandwidth for it. I want to make bandwidth for it because I love it. I love being able to invest, develop, build, encourage, and give back to those who have gone before, give back to my community. I heard a pastor friend of mine once say that you can only leave from a place of experience. And I think I've quoted him for the last 5 years, like once a week for the last 5 years, because I'm like, wow, that's mind blowing. But it's so simple as well. But you can only leave from a place of experience. So you kind of touched on it earlier too, like the injuries that I sustained and such, how I have a prerequisite knowledge now and an experiential aspect to it where I can help other individuals navigate post-injury or prehabilitation or strength and conditioning in order to focus on area weakness, injury prevention, things of that nature, and accomplish the best possible version of themselves in doing so. And high school athletics is it's such a groundwork for building and developing the framework of an individual, a foundational aspect of their life, where you can either speak to their potential, you can speak life into them, or our words, again, scripture tells us that the tongue has the ability to speak life and death.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to take it upon myself to be able to speak life and direct students, young athletes, into young entrepreneurs, young business people, doctors, whatever it might be, but believe in them, be the same person for them that my coach was for me, whatever it was 10, 15 years ago now, said, I believe in you. And that's my heart for athletics. And that's why I want to get back into that lane or that endeavor. Right now, it's really a matter of like creating that bandwidth and identifying the areas that are non-negotiable for me, and the other areas that like I can scale back a little bit so I can make that bandwidth and make time for it.
Yes, I can. Yep, that makes sense to me. You and I have always been on the same wavelength about really what we want to accomplish. Coaching is something that is a passion of mine as well. Coming from Framingham High School, I've been a volunteer. Prior to COVID, I've been a volunteer coach for probably just as long as I've been out of high school, so almost 10 years now. And that's something that I love to do and want to make it a part of my life to always make the time to go back, because like you said, like you're where you are because of the coaches who influence you, and were there for you when you didn't think you had it. And for me, that's where my heart belongs, going back and giving back to the community and giving hope to the young athletes as well. But let's transition to a program that you are a major part of, EIB, everything in between. For those of you, I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier, you and I met through our church, which is Connect, and I've seen the evolution of everything in between. But I would love to hear about where you guys are. First of all, congratulations for becoming an official LLC.
Thank you, bro.
Speaking of evolution and really kind of leveraging and capitalizing on COVID, which is something I want to talk about a little bit more. But what is EIB? Just to start there.
That is a packed question, and I guess I'll break it down as layman's as possible, but I'll speak to the evolution of it as well, because it really it's been such a celebratory season for us, and it's been such a season of patience and of tilling the soil, if you will, of preparation. But really, I mean, so you talked about it. We met 5 or 6 years ago through our church, and then one of our, I'd say, first or predominant experiences was on a consistent basis through EIB, weekly touch points, getting back in the gym for some physical endurance and such, and then digging into the Word of God. That was my favorite piece of it. Like, hey, we'd fatigue ourselves physically, we'd work out, we'd push ourselves beyond limits that we thought that we didn't think we knew, and then we break it down into a Bible study or a conversation or organic life-giving experiences. So awesome. And EIB, we began as a small group in our local church. So we were a weekly entity that met for that given experience I just discussed. And then from there, it became a business model. And then the business model has since shifted as well, where 5 years ago, I think it was 2015, so 6 years ago, I put down again, I'm going to talk blueprint. I put in, this is why I love God so much. John Maxwell says that vision changes, values remain the same. And I've heard other people say that as well. Now, the vision that God had shared with me 5, 6 years ago, I wrote that down on a piece of computer paper, and it was a 3-story building with the embodiment of health and wellness. So it was fitness, it was nutrition, it was like a sports psychology or a counselship, if you will. And it was a brick and mortar location. Over the years, there have been some different intrinsic changes to it. And then through COVID, really, the values, our core values, people, excellence, integrity, community, energy. Those remain. Those are our values. That's what we lead and direct ourselves by. Those stayed the same. Those remained. Our vision changed. Our vision changed with the times. Our vision changed with the necessities, with the culture, with the direction that we're heading. So rather than having a brick and mortar location, rather than being a three-trick pony, if you will, we now have the ability to reach a broader and a wider network. We have the ability to touch more points. And I remember this is so great. This is God. At the very beginning of 2020, I want to say the date was like January 17th or something. I remember like that still small voice, that inaudible, unmistakable voice of God in my heart. And it said, EIB's reach will far exceed its touch. EIB's reach will far exceed its touch. And I had no flipping idea what that meant. Yeah. Because at that point, we were still operating in person. We were still doing like a monthly event-based small group kind of experience where it would emulate what it used to look like in person. And the heart was like, hey, let's build something up. We'll buy a location and we'll run a gym, And then due to COVID, we had to shift our mindset. And that mindset was now that our reach would far exceed our touch, meaning that we'd be able to have touch points with people all across the globe.
That's so good.
People that we would never be able to have contact or touch with because of obviously just physical limitations now. Yeah. So we are a remote application that offers lifestyle development through the lens of health and wellness. So whatever that might look like, the catalyst to that is fitness and nutrition. Outside of that, there is chiropractic relationships, there's physical therapy, there's financial freedom, the sports or business psychology, or there's counselship, there's spiritual counsel, there's relational counsel, you name it, fill in the blank, but anything that has to do with the lane of the health and wellness of the human body, whether it's internally, externally, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, anything that falls underneath that umbrella is going to be something that is an offering, a program offering, or a one-time experience, whatever the need might be of the given individual. But what we've recognized in our tendencies and what we've recognized in our studies, I believe the two greatest human needs are belonging and purpose. So if we can provide a place where people have the ability to feel like they belong somewhere, they have a community, whether that community is in person or remote, they have a network of people to rely on. And then purpose. Statistics tell us that the more ingrained, implanted in community, the more that calls out our purpose, because we have people speaking life into us, people who believe in us, like I had with my coach. So if we have the ability to do those two things, provide a platform for community and for purpose building, all the while creating a lifestyle development like mentality where we're literally developing, we're becoming better. We have this mentality of betterment, if you will, then I don't believe that there's anything that can stop us. Because it's what we need. And right now, even more so because of the season that we're in, we need that connectivity. We need those relationships. Absolutely. We need that accountability. We need to feel like we have purpose in the morning. What gets us out of bed in the morning? And it's not going to be the 9 a.m. Zoom call that we have with our staff that we've been doing for the last whatever it is, 14 months now. It's going to be the thing that lights a fire inside of us, that thing that makes us feel alive. So how can we preemptively direct people into that? And I believe it's through community. I believe it's through relationship. And I believe it's through our physical well-being. If we're good here, we're good out there. So I think it really boils back down to that development piece. And then I believe that fitness and nutrition and wellness is the most organic way to get there.
Absolutely. So good. Thanks for that explanation. It's very well put together for sure. And we've always been, like I said, we're always connected in the sense that 3G is the same. We have a similar model where we take a one-stop shop approach. And my mindset is that, I kind of think of it, I come from a medical background. So I kind of think of the client as, as when you go into your doctor's practice, right? You only see your PCP, your primary doctor, but, the total system requires multiple specialties. Right. And so that's why for us, it made sense to be able to, one, of course, we specialize in the fitness part of it, but we want to partner up with all the right people to meet your needs, as a client coming in through this journey. It requires more than just fitness. It's the nutrition.
Right.
It's the, also the mindset, right? The mental game, being able to tap into psychologists and life coaches that can help guide you to, down the line or the direction where when you're feeling like you've hit a plateau and you don't understand why, you have someone there who could just kind of walk you through the process and say, hey, and pinpoint where you're lacking. How do we overcome this hurdle? So it's so crucial to have that system, that team set in place. And it cost wise too, it also makes so much sense to be able to have everything under one umbrella. And through these partnerships, you could provide necessary services to people under one umbrella. And the messaging is consistent. Right. The quality is consistent across the board versus them having to go to this person, this person, this person. And as you go up, the cost goes up. And then the quality is pretty shifty as well, as you can imagine. And we all have imagined it. So awesome, man. I'm so happy for you guys. Congratulations on putting together such a necessary, much needed service. And I know for a fact you guys are going to kill it.
Thank you,
and the thing too that I really appreciate about your model is accessibility too. You've kind of in skilling, thinking about going from a brick and mortar type vision to, what God is like, I got bigger plans for you, and you kind of shifted to now, a service that can meet the needs of people internationally and even globally. Right. Amazing, man. And that being said, did COVID impact that shift in any way possible? Or maybe for me, I know it was timing too. The timing may have been sped up a little bit more. How did COVID impact some of those transitions or evolution? And also, how were you able to leverage the season?
Yeah. And I think you and I have had this conversation so many times over, and we're step in step with it, and I love it so much. And COVID not only, I think, opened our eyes to it, but it also accelerated the process for us. Recognizing we have no idea how long some of these stipulations and protocols are going to be in place for, regardless of vaccinations coming out, regardless of what are limitations or regulations being lifted and such. We still have no idea how long we're going to have capacity rules on local gyms or physical distancing and such. So with that in mind, we can't sit back and play the waiting game. We have to push the ball forward. And I believe that we need it now more than we ever have, at least in our lifetime. So COVID was, not only was it the timing of COVID, but COVID was the catalyst to it. COVID was the driving force behind the change. And this is, again, this is what I love so much about God is yes, we saw COVID and we experienced it in March, give or take, whatever timeline that was last year. But when God spoke to me, it was January. So it's this is what I'm telling you right now. And you have no idea what that looks like yet, but you will come to find out what that is to be. And it was prompted in my heart prior to COVID. And then when COVID hit, it made sense. I'm that's what God was talking about. This is it. This is what he meant, And the only thing you can do is leverage the experience for what it is and make the most out of your situation. So rather than scraping by and making the most of our situation, we've actually been able to, again, as you discussed, launch into an official LLC. We're driving to be profitable, certain things of that nature, you know what I mean? Where it's these are things that we probably would have been 5 to 7 years away if we were a brick and mortar location. Yes. And even when you physically open, it takes a while to actually become profitable, to be in the black.
Yep.
So, my gosh, like, praise God for the fact that we have the ability to move forward now, and at no overhead, at no insurance costs, at no rent fees, things of that nature. Very minimal overheads in regards to our investment, but so much ROI, unbelievable return on investment, not just for ourselves, but hopefully for our members as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the speed, the rate of success, or your success rate had just really sped up with
Yeah.
just that shift in your model, which is something that we're also
Yeah.
always constantly doing. The value always there, our roots are there, but we shift with the times to be able
Yeah.
to be realistic as well too, but also futuristic too. So you
Yeah.
can't always predict everything, but technology is here for a reason, right? We have to be able to leverage these things and move quicker. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about you guys is also like so one something I was thinking about, and you mentioned about operational costs. Some
Yeah.
of those things, those challenges that people don't really think about when you start a business.
Yeah.
Ideally, yeah, it sounds great to have a brick and mortar location, but you think about now that you've shifted, you think about, wow, how much have I in time and resources have I
Yeah.
saved from being an online platform?
Yeah.
You're not just able to, now you're able to leverage a larger audience too, but then from an operational cost, you could
Yeah.
start and run this at a very minimum, cost. And that's something that people don't always think about. I always get the question, are you ever going to go to a physical gym location? Yes and
Yeah.
no, in the sense that like 20 years from now, I'm thinking like I'm gonna go all out in the sense of lifetime fitness, right? That holistic piece, that one-stop shop approach, and be able to have 3G, the virtual 3G with all these different platforms and services under one umbrella, yes. But as a gym, no. Because one, I can leverage properties, businesses, mom and pops, sites, locations right now that need that relationship where we could work with them, partner up with
Yeah.
them, pay a small fee to utilize that space, but also adapt to the times of reaching the needs of people who, as a company where we focus on fitness for busy people,
Yeah.
working with people where they're at, whether it's at the homes, or virtual training.
Yeah.
So yeah, I commend you for really being on top of it and thinking ahead, because you just saved yourself so much time and your success rate is
Yeah.
that much faster now.
Yeah.
So that's amazing, man. That's amazing. And then now that we really got a full understanding of EIB, where it started, where the vision is, and where it's gonna go. How about what's the next step for Mike Ritchie? In you going back to your personal journey,
Yeah.
what can we expect to see from you over the next couple of years?
Another loaded question.
Is
And
it?
I know, right? What can we expect from me? And man, I had a conversation last night, and I think we talked about this recently, and I think my answers probably changed from last night. I'm a part of a men's group. We get together once a month, about
Okay.
8 or so of us, and we just hash out life. It's like, it's maybe we're celebrating, it's a season of celebration, or it's a praise report, maybe it's a prayer request, maybe it's like, hey, this is an issue that I'm working around, trying to navigate. I would love some insight or advice or direction, or come alongside and help. You know what I mean? And one of the conversations we had last night was really about that blueprint model. And I've always been such a goal-oriented type dreamer. I sit down every year and I track and put together a macro sheet of goals of, these are the things I want to accomplish, and I'll write input values, desired outcomes. This is how I'm going to get there. If I do X, Y, and Z, it's going to get me to A, B, and C. And I'll sit back at the end of the year and I'll track, and I'm like, Yo, check, I
So
completed
good.
that. I completed this. Read 25 books,
Wow.
boom, I read 33. You know what I mean? I'm
Wow.
like,
Yeah, yeah,
great.
yeah.
Some goals I absolutely dominate. Some goals I'm like, wow, I was terrible. Like, I need to
Yeah,
reevaluate that one.
exactly.
Or maybe it's unrealistic or not feasible, whatever it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I've always lived in this like this state of mind that is goal oriented and dreamer centric, dream focused. Um, but I believe in doing so, I set myself up for either unmet expectations, disappointment. My cousin said something last night. He said, expectations are what steal intimacy. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good.
Wow.
You set expectations on relationship, you're stealing
Hmm.
the intimacy that you could potentially have.
Wow.
Expectations can be, and I don't want to say in every way, in every shape or form, but expectations can be a sense of a joy stealer, if you will. Um, so I think for me, what we can expect for the next 3 to 5 years is a lot of the same. Um, it's a lot of the same. I don't want to continue to create that blueprint of where Mike wants to be in 5 years from now. But I think in rather than like who are you in 5 years is like um, the character development, the intangible qualities, the the discipline, the intentionality, the integrity. Like I would say that what you can expect from me is consistency across the board. I'm going to put my best foot forward every freaking
Every
morning
day.
to be
Yeah.
the consistent individual that aligns with who it is that I wish to become.
Wow.
Leading
Wow.
myself with purity of heart, with integrity, with honor, with virtue, with valor, and into a place of victory. And operating and navigating and walking in that alignment, and that's going to take me so much further than if I were to set a standard or a blueprint or an expectation. Um, but I believe so. Scripture tells us in Proverbs 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him. Another translation says, in all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. So I'm like, submission, submission, obedience, trust, surrender. Like, I think we can expect those things from me. And then I have dreams and visions, and those things have been placed in my heart for a reason. But if I get ahead of God, then I'll either do a disservice, it'll
Yeah.
be of
Yeah.
detriment, or I'll put myself on the pedestal. So, um, trust, surrender, obedience, and repetition, consistency.
Amazing. Man. No surprise there. You have always been like just high quality, very intentional guy, and everything you're saying, it makes sense to me. I didn't expect anything less. And I've always appreciated and admired that about you. There's not many of my peers that I look up to and I'm inspired by, but you are high on
Appreciate you.
that list, and you know that it's always been that way.
Thank you,
So
brother.
amazing, man, and thank you for really sharing your story, your journey, why you do this every day, and giving us a chance to understand what is EIB and what's the vision for
Yeah.
EIB. And that being said, once again, thank you so much. But where can our listeners find you and become a part of a community like EIB?
Yeah. The the podcast itself is available on all main streaming networks
Okay.
platforms. So, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Anchor, and anything else of that nature. And then the social media is it's everything in between underscore EIB.
Mm-hmm. EIB.
So you can
Sure.
find all the content there as well.
Awesome, awesome. Looking forward to it, and I know it's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. And I love to check in once in a while just to see what you're up to, and love to hear you speak. For those of you who do not know, Mike is he's a natural born speaker. He's actually a spoken word artist. So, so when so when you hear this guy could just go on, pick a topic and just get so creative and get so passionate about it. So it's definitely worth checking out EIB, and you will not be disappointed. And yeah, man. So thanks again. I appreciate everything that you do, and looking forward to some more collaboration down the line.
Thank you, my brother.
All right. And for our listeners, you could, as always, we're on social media. You could always find us on My Fitness Journey, MFJ Podcast, MFJ _ podcast, and of course, 3G System Fitness, the sponsor of My Fitness Journey. So everywhere we are, please like, subscribe, follow Mike, give him some love. And please send him a note, a thank you note, a message, a text, or whatever it is, about how, a feedback on his story and how he can help or guide you through your journey as well as a coach. So on that note, thank you once again, my man, and enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Gotta get it in, gotta get it out. Go get in, go get out. It's a 3G system fitness. Do that, that. Come on, do that. Gotta get it in, gotta get it out. It's a 3D system fitness. Let's bounce.